Hey guys, Zack here, and this is my review of the Cuphead show. Okay, so this episode, Sweater Off Next Time, is actually a direct sequel to Sweater Off Dead. So, and yeah, it does kind of continue the plot of the original of that first episode from that last time, and yeah, this episode very much opens up with the devil. He's sitting on his throne and he's a little bit pissed, and of course, henchman is oblivious to what's going on, so he just comes in with a spare piece of cake from the party and tells the devil that he looks a little bit too glum, and does offer him a piece of leftover cake, and does point out that he seems upset for somebody who's still very much very much stole Cuphead's soul, and does congratulate him, but this just kind of winds up causing the devil to snap at him, pointing out that obviously he didn't steal Cuphead's soul last time. He just said that so that Stickler would leave him alone. And also points out that obviously he does very much hate Stickler and hopes that he never finds out. But of course the henchman then proceeds to point out that obviously the devil needs to take a load off seemingly, and does offer to take him on a ride on the Obliterator. It's a new ride at the Equal Isle Carnival, and it is apparently so fast that it'll rip your clothes off, which And of course, the devil points out that he's not in the mood to actually go on any sort of ride. So he then proceeds. He points out that obviously he's just going to wait for Cuphead to actually take his sweater off so he can steal his soul. And sure enough, what we find out is that Mugman is very insistent about the fact that Cuphead should never take his sweater off, ever. Pointing out that it's the only thing that's keeping his soul safe from the devil. But of course, Cuphead remarks that he isn't too worried about it, but then the devil actually winds up showing up to try and steal Cuphead's soul, and winds up electrocuting himself on the sweater, obviously. And of course, Cuphead then proceeds to point out that obviously he's not taking his sweater off and he's never getting his souls. But the devil is determined to actually steal his soul, and then what follows is a montage of the devil trying and failing to steal Cuphead's soul multiple times as they're trying to do other things. Of course, the devil shows up to their beach vacation. He shows up while they're trying to play frisbee. He shows up while they're trying to do a whole bunch of other things, and the devil each time winds up zapping himself and leaving. And of course, it does eventually escalate to a point where Cuphead is currently listening to his favorite radio show, Dirt Dangerous, and Pyromaniac Pete, which of course is very much a sweat-inducing episode, and he's very much in the brink of it, and points out that it's very sweat-inducing, but. And of course, Mugman is actually reading the newspaper while Cuphead is listening to all of this, and proceeds to point out that obviously there's actually a new ride that they should go on and ride called the Obliterator, which of course Cuphead is a little bit interested, and of course what we find out is that Mugman has actually ripped out the ad, so he can't fully read the whole thing of it about how to rip your clothes off, but he does point out that it is new and that they should go and ride it, and of course, obviously, Cuphead is very excited about being able to do that, and points out that maybe they'll get back before Elder Kettle wakes up from his nap. And they immediately try to go out the front door, and the devil is standing there waiting for him, and once again demands to have Cuphead's soul. And of course, but it's at this point where Cuphead and Mugman just kind of shush him, pointing out that obviously Elder Kettle's asleep and he shouldn't be there. Pointing out that if he wakes up and sees him, it'll be a big problem. But of course, the devil points out that obviously that is very annoyed about the fact, and also wonders who Elder Kettle is, but they just slam the door in his face, which causes him to throw a bit of a temper tantrum and just burn up the front yard, and also just burn up everything, and of course he once again knocks on the front door, but of course Cuphead merely tells him that if he wants to talk, he needs to come around back, and the devil is just annoyed and starts grumbling to himself, pointing out that obviously he's the devil, he shouldn't be going around back at all. And And of course, once again, he eventually does come to the back door and demands to ask what is going on and why he can't have Cuphead's soul. But Cuphead merely responds that if the Elder Carol sees him, they'll be in very big trouble. But the devil points out the very obvious fact that they're already in big trouble. He's the devil. He's there to collect Cuphead's soul. Obviously, he's in as big a trouble as he can get. But it's at this point where Elder Carol pokes his head out the window, and Cuphead and Mugman shove the devil into a bush. And of course Cuphead lies about the fact that it's some weird cat thing that they've been talking to, and the Elder Carol merely tells them to keep it down, and also tells them that they should actually he actually needs them to actually repaint the fence because it's a mess. And what we find out is that the fence actually got hit by the devil's little temper tantrum, so it's currently on fire. It's a bit of a mess, and Elder Carol insists that they fix it. And once the devil picks himself back up and climbs out of the bush, they tell him that it's all his fault, that they have to fix the fence now, and it is. And points out that obviously if it wasn't for the little temper tantrum, they obviously wouldn't have to paint the fence. And of course Tell demands that he does it. But of course he's the devil and points out that obviously he shouldn't be painting fences. He's the devil. Why would he paint a fence? But and of course Cuphead then proceeds to make an offer with the devil, pointing out that if the devil does indeed successfully paint the fence, he will take off his magic sweater that is protecting his soul. And of course Mugman very much looks at Cuphead like he's crazy and tells him that he can't take the sweater off. But Cuphead just tells him to just go with it. And asks the devil if they have a deal. And of course the devil, realizing that means he'll actually be able to get Cuphead's soul, does agree to go paint the fence, and they take him around front to go paint the fence. But what we quickly find out is that apparently the devil doesn't really know how to paint a fence. He's just kind of poking and prodding it with his brush, and it seems like he doesn't know what he's doing. And of course Cuphead even points out that that's not how you paint a fence, and asks him if he's ever done something like this before. And the devil insists that he can do anything because he's the devil, and insists that if he says he can paint a fence, he knows he can paint a fence. And then proceeds to demonstrate his ability to paint a fence by using his devil magic to make all the paints and all the brushes just fly all over the place and start painting the fence. And it is a very gorgeously animated sequence, I should mention. It's a very fun thing, and you can tell the animators were having a lot of fun animating it. And but of course it's just a really fun sequence, and I do recommend watching the episode because it's a lot of fun. But of course Cuphead and Mugman quickly realize that since the devil is distracted, they could very much just go off and go ride the Obliterator while he's distracted. And of course they immediately go and do exactly that. They leave and let the devil just paint the fence for a bit. They just trick the devil into painting their fence, and then proceed to not actually watch as he paints the fence. And of course, they then proceed to go to the carnival, where Cuphead and Mugman are currently waiting in a very long line. They are unable to actually get any further, and Cuphead points out that obviously he hates waiting in lines, but then gets a brilliant idea and asks Mugman if he would like to get some funnel cake. And of course Mugman points out the very obvious thing that Cuphead doesn't like funnel cake. He points out that Cuphead doesn't like it. But of course Cuphead points out that obviously Mugman knitted him a special sweater that he doesn't like doing, that he doesn't normally like doing, but points out that since he did, it's the least he can do. So Of course, Mugman is more than happy to, but also finds out that Cuphead has no money and loans him $5, much to his annoyance. And of course Cuphead immediately leaves to go and find some funnel cake. Meanwhile, the devil is currently finishing up painting the fence, and once again, I should mention, very glorious sequence, very beautiful. It's very lovely just seeing the devil just getting into it and just painting the fence. It's funny. And it's a very fun sequence, but eventually he does wind up painting the fence, even though he paints it in every color but white. It somehow winds up becoming white anyway. I think he just uses his devil powers at one point to just mix all the colors into one color, which and of course he then bows and points that that's how, and then proclaims that that's how you paint a fence. But of course, the devil, and of course, by this point, Cuphead and Mugman are long gone, and is annoyed because they obviously promised him a sweater. So he points out that obviously it's because they left. He very much has to track them down and figure out where they went, and does eventually notice a bunch of paint-covered footprints that have just walked off from Elder Carol's house, and decides to follow those. Meanwhile, Cuphead has come back with two Mugman in their space in line with the funnel cake, and Cuphead is obviously very much covered in sugar, and does point out that there was a bit of a powdered sugar mishap, but Mugman points out it's fine and that he loves extra powdered sugar, and proceeds to just kind of use the pieces of funnel cake to just kind of scoop the powder off of Cuphead, and also jokingly remarks that he hopes he doesn't eat any magic sweater fibers while he's eating it, but of course Cuphead points out that he might. But then reveals that he actually took the sweater off several hours ago, which causes Mugman to obviously go into a panic, because obviously that means that the devil can now steal his soul. And of course, Cuphead points out that the devil isn't even there, and does proceed to point out that he's not really worried about it because the devil probably is never going to find out. But it's at this point where the devil actually winds up flashing in, and Cuphead immediately leaps into Mugman's arms. But Mugman merely whispers to him that obviously the devil doesn't know that he's missing his magic sweater. So Cuphead just kind of plays it cool, and sure enough, the devil then proceeds to point out that obviously he painted the fence. He wants Cuphead's soul now, and he wants Cuphead to take it off. But of course, Cuphead points out that he doesn't know if the devil painted the fence. He left. He hasn't seen it, or went to go check. And obviously the devil does point out that Cuphead needs to go check. But the Cuphead points out that they've been waiting in line for a better part of an hour now. So he points out that obviously he's not going to just leave their place in line to go check a fence. But and of course they point out that they've been waiting all day to ride the Obliterator, and it's at this point where the devil remembers what henchman told him at the start of the episode about how obviously this is a ride that is designed to rip your clothes off, and he agrees that Cuphead should be riding the ride, and decides to wait in line with him. And of course, Cuphead points out that this is obviously a very great idea, but Mugman points out whispers that obviously it's a very big problem. That's because the devil is just kind of there, and he points out that if the devil ever finds out that he's not wearing a sweater, that he may need to find it. But and of course, he makes a very coded language because obviously the devil is just standing right there. But Cuphead doesn't fully understand what Mugman is talking about, so Mugman just kind of leaves to go and find the sweater while Cuphead waits in line with the devil to go ride the Obliterator. And in the process, Cuphead then proceeds to tell a joke to the devil to try and break the silence between them. And of course the devil isn't in any mood, but Cuphead tells the joke about how when you eat it, about what's worse than finding a worm in your apple, finding half a worm. And of course the devil doesn't really crack a smile. So Cuphead then proceeds to over-explain the joke about what happens, and but then also proceeds to make a joke that the devil actually does like about how the only thing worse than finding half a worm in your apple is falling down a sewer, which the devil winds up cracking a smile at, but then proceeds to deny that he cracked a smile. Meanwhile, and also this is just Cuphead's completely off screen, but because of this little exchange between the two of them, Cuphead and the devil ironically wind up becoming fast friends, which I just find is very funny. But in any case, Mugman is currently racing around the house trying to find out where Cuphead put the sweater, and wonders what exactly it might be. And then he hears Cuphead's favorite radio show, Dirt Dangerous, down below in the living room, and he realizes that Cuphead most likely took the sweater off while he was listening to his radio show. So of course he then proceeds to scoop up the sweater and head back to the carnival. Meanwhile, Cuphead and the devil have since shared a couple of laughs, and the devil remarks that Cuphead, and as I said, they become fast friends at this point, and Cuphead and the devil then proceeds to remark to Cuphead that he isn't so bad after all, and that's all he needed to do was just get to know him, and proceeds to give him a pat on the back, but then realizes that he can actually pet Cuphead on the back. And after poking and prodding Cuphead for several minutes, eventually realizes that Cuphead isn't wearing his special sweater. And of course Cuphead denies this, pointing out that he doesn't know that. But of course the devil then proceeds to demonstrate that fact by actually ripping Cuphead's soul out, which and of course he points out that he obviously is not wearing the sweater. And it's at which point where Mugman comes back and sticks the sweater on the devil, telling him that he's the one wearing it now. And this just causes the devil to become incapacitated because the sweater is now electrocuting him. So and while the devil is just trying to take the sweater off, Cuphead and Mugman then proceed to climb onto the Obliterator and start riding it. And eventually the devil does wind up getting free of the sweater and returns back to hell, where the henchman is currently icing the devil's burns. As we find out that it's caused the fur around his upper arms and his stomach to kind of burn off, because obviously that's where he had his arms pinned to by the sweater. And of course, the henchman does kind of point out that he tried his best, but also points out that obviously he'll get his soul next time, and points out that now he no longer has the sweater to protect him. And of course, the devil then proceeds to point out that proceeds to ask henchman what he did with the sweater. And what we find out is that the henchman just kind of hid the sweater in an undisclosed location where nobody will ever be able to find it. And of course, the devil is very happy about that fact and points out that now that the sweater is gone for good, he's now free to just steal Cuphead's soul whenever he wants. So he doesn't have to worry about Stickler finding out anymore. He can literally just go in and just steal it whenever. Meanwhile, Cuphead and Mugman do kind of stroll down the street and proceed to remark about the events that just transpired, about how obviously they lost the sweater, but and points out that now Cuphead's soul is very much in danger again. But Cuphead points out that obviously he doesn't really worry about it all that much, pointing out that obviously he has his brother to look after him, and does point out that as long as he has somebody like that, he will probably not feel quite as exposed. But then they proceed to walk, and throughout this entire sequence, they're walking behind a brick wall. But then they walk out the other side of it, and it's revealed that neither of them are wearing clothes because the Obliterator ripped their clothes off. So, yeah, in any case, that's where the episode ends. So, yeah, this episode obviously is the second half of the two-parter. Obviously, it's the second half of Sweater Off Dead, and it does continue the plot line of that, where now the devil has just successfully gotten rid of Cuphead's sweater and now can just steal his soul whenever. So it was a temporary setback for the devil, but he wound up working it out, and now he can just steal Cuphead's soul whenever again. But obviously that does wind up posing a problem now, because obviously now Cuphead's soul is very much vulnerable, and he very much almost lost it in this episode. So it's very worrying that the devil could just at one point show up and steal Cuphead's soul again. But I don't know. If Cuphead isn't worried about it, I'm not worried about it. But yeah, of course the devil is eventually going to come back and try to steal Cuphead's soul. But that's probably not going to happen for a while, because this episode is just a series. Because this series is just a series of it's very much an old cartoon. There is an overarching plot, but the plot doesn't really matter. So who knows when the devil is going to try and steal Cuphead's soul again? It could be next episode. It could be next season. We don't know. But in any case, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. Be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It does really help me out. And you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that are my way of saying thanks. So be sure to check those out. Link is down in the description. And finally, if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent one. It may or may not be this one. Whereas the bottom video is a video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So if you want to try something new or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. And also next time I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!